Hey Andre, we've got some breaking news, literally, because
Yes.
if you look at the picture over our shoulder, the question is, how did that happen? And there's a story that just came out about a man and a truck and a camper. And in this video, we're going to be talking about exactly what happened and what that means in terms of payload to most of us.
Yeah, and this story has to do with a recent model, one of the newer Ram 3500 dually trucks, and a gentleman named Mike, who was traveling in the remote area, I believe.
Yeah, Baja California and Mexico.
Yeah, and as you can see in this picture, he's carrying a very large truck camper, and his frame is bent.
Or broken, hard
broken.
to say. Yeah,
Or
hard,
broken.
hard to say. And of course, what is always astounding is when you see, especially a heavy-duty truck that is designed to carry large amounts of payload, accordion like that. And we're not going to just pick on Ram here because obviously there have been stories over the last 12 years since we've been doing this where truck frames bend. But I think it has to do with payload and maybe a misunderstanding that people have about payload and how much they can put in the back of their trucks. But before we get to that, let's talk about this story and what happened.
Yeah, and also some of the information that we're discussing comes to us from thedrive.com because Caleb Jacobs there did some more investigating and actually spoken to Mike himself. And according to that information, this camper is an Eagle Cap 1165, which is one of the largest campers I've ever seen, dude. It's got slide outs, it's got doors, it's got, a lot of equipment that can be added to it, and a lot of let me get another picture of it. It also has a lot of additional stuff you could add to it, including what Mike has here, which is a hitch with what looks to be an electric bike on the back of it. And here's the thing, according to that report, Mike, the owner of the truck, said he did some research, right? He looked up the Ram truck. He said, oh, this truck has 7,860 pounds of payload, which is a large number, right?
It is a large number.
And then he talked to the dealership where he purchased the truck. He talked to the dealership where he purchased the camper. He looked at all the numbers, and the camper dry weight was about 4,900 pounds, just under 5,000. And he said, I'm good, right?
Now, dry means without anything in it.
Without water, without anything in it. But there's more to it, right? Because this truck is a crew cab, it's a 4x4, it's a Cummins diesel, and when you add those features to a truck, the payload comes down dramatically.
So basically the issue here is that I think people often don't understand that there are so many different configurations of truck that payload is based on the configuration. And in simple terms, kind that my brain understands, like the more fancy and the more stuff the truck has, the less payload it has. And that has to do with towing as well. So when you add four-wheel drive, when you add the Cummins diesel, which is heavy, when you add the quad cab,
when you add power assisted steps,
all that basically takes down your payload. So in fact, what is the payload on the truck that is in that picture?
Yeah, so we don't have a sticker,
right?
So if you open the driver door, you can look at the payload sticker. It's a little yellow. It also has a tire pressure ratings on that sticker, and it will tell you the precise payload on that exact truck. We don't have that picture, but I looked up the data sheet.
And did you configure it?
I configured it.
Okay.
And the payload on this 4x4 crew cab dually diesel is between about 5,500 pounds and 5,000 pounds.
So
that's a huge difference from 7,800.
Yeah, so basically he lost over 2,000 pounds of payload by going to that fancier truck.
Yeah.
And you said the camper dry weighs almost 5,000 pounds. So he was almost maxing out the truck's payload.
Just with the camper naked. Yeah.
And if he was in the process of hauling lead, let's say, he may have actually exceeded the payload. We don't know what was in the truck, in the camper, and how much gear and weight it had additional to the fact that it was dry.
Mm-hmm. But he was also on an extended trip, right? So I'm assuming he wasn't bringing nothing with him. I'm sure he had some gear, maybe some water he was carrying, and maybe additional propane, additional gas, something like this.
And hopefully not lead.
Not lead. Well, maybe he's a miner. I don't know.
Let's talk about what the manufacturer says about campers, because you went and did some research. Now this story is over at alltfl.com or TFL Truck, and you did some research. So what did you figure out, Andre, when you actually did this research?
So yeah, let me go back here. So first of all, I looked up the owner's manual.
Yep.
Right. As you can see from the owner's manual picture, each truck, a manufacturer, does a specific camper rating. They call it slide-in camper, and they have a very specific way of telling the owner, which is actually pretty hard to understand, that the majority, the center of gravity of the camper has to be right over the rear axle and in front of it. Okay.
So you don't want to cantilever most of the weight
on the back of it.
Over the back, because not only will that lift the front of the truck up, which will give you issues with like your headlights, but it also eventually puts a lot of stress on the frame of the truck.
Yeah, so they have this, but in the real world, I mean, how do you know where your center of gravity is? You really don't. So you really have to go on, I would go on a scale, right? Many truck stops have scales. Some farming communities have scales for farming trucks. Just run over a scale. It will cost you, what, $13?
Yep.
At the most currently. And just get a good baseline for your camper and the truck.
And the scale will tell you how much weight you have on the front of the truck versus how much weight you have on the rear axle. So it does give you those two numbers, so then you know where your center of gravity is. Now there is another solution, Andre, and that is a smart thing that Ford did, right? Ford, in their most recent version of the F-150, and I think, is it on their heavy duty, super duty trucks?
It's going in there for 2023, yeah.
Have built-in scales, which actually then tell you in the user interface how much, I was going to say how much weight, but it doesn't actually tell you the amount of weight. It just tells you kind of, there's a bar that turns red and green. So it tells you how much payload capacity you have left as you load up the truck.
Yeah, it actually has a height sensor, right? Because many trucks now have adjustable suspensions as well. But some of their trucks for Super Duty and now F-150 have a height sensor which estimates, how much payload you may have, and kind of tells you, oh, by the way, you may be overweight. So it kind of tells you exactly what you have.
And then, of course, there's the unknowns here, right? Like I said, we don't know what was in the camper. We don't know how much weight he had cantilevered. It looked like they were electric bicycles,
which are kind of heavy.
Electric bikes are heavy. They tend to be like in the 80 to 100 pound range, and then when you,
especially fat tire bikes, right?
Especially fat tire bikes, and then when you cantilever them over the edge, you're increasing basically the amount of stress you're putting on that frame. What else did you figure out?
I also, according to Caleb Jacobs and his story, Mike drove about 25,000 miles with a camper. We don't know exactly, if he had bicycles or what he had over that time. But what I'm assuming is also that truck has been kind of loaded and stressed out for a long time. So it wasn't like, he just drove off the lot and this happened. It happened over time.
So what happened when he took it to his local Ram dealer? Did they decide that they were going to fix it under warranty?
No. He was denied his warranty claim.
Okay. All right.
I'm assuming this truck is about 2 years old, so it's still within the warranty period. But they looked at it and they said no.
Okay, and did they give him a number as to how much it's going to cost to repair the truck?
Yes.
Okay, how much?
They said approximately $17,000.
Whoa. Wow, yeah, that's a lot of money.
Which I believe,
so
because
basically you have to replace the frame.
Yeah, which is similar to replacing your spine.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, Toyota did it on their Tacomas, right?
When they rusted out.
That was very expensive and it took a week. This is going to be something very similar. So, look, I think that the issue here is I think many people get confused with payload because there are so many different configurations of truck and so many different truck types. Right now we've got 4 classes. We've got compact, mid-size, full-size, and of course heavy duty, and they all have different configurations and they all have different payload numbers. And you just naturally assume that because you've got a heavy duty dually, right, that you're going to have the most payload, but that may not be the case.
Yeah, and sometimes you see those billboards on the highway, Ram, Ford, GM, big numbers, 8,000 pounds, 7,800 pounds. But remember, those are gas engines, two-wheel drive, small cabs. So it's very specific, right? So just take a look at your truck you're buying, and actually it's pretty easy. Look inside the door, do some research, and figure it out.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's easy. Well,
apparently
I don't think it's easy. And then they have in some ways made it easier because I think Ford, and I don't know, does GM do this? You'd know. Do they have a online configurator where you can go and put in either the VIN or the specific truck and it spits out the payload?
Ram has this.
They have it as well.
Yeah, so ramtrucks.com, there's a little towing guide.
Yeah.
You put your VIN into it, and it'll tell you exact towing and payload ratings for your truck, so you don't even have to see your truck. You could look at the VIN from a dealership, plug it in, and you know exactly what. That's what we did with our stubby truck, right? When we looked it up, we got the numbers right there online.
Now, did the reporter actually talk to the camper manufacturer at all?
No, I don't think we have. It's an Eagle cab, once again. And I looked at it, dude. It's got like a queen size bed. It's got slide outs. It's got an awning.
It's like the king of campers.
It's the king of campers. Like we have an LU cab on our Ram truck, right?
Yeah.
And our LU cab, because it's all aluminum and it's very small, weighs about 500 pounds. This 4,917 pounds of dry weight just for this gigantic camper.
And I see it's got batteries, dual capacity, so that those are going to be. I was joking about lead, but it probably does have lead.
Had a little bit of lead.
It probably does have lead acid batteries.
Yeah.
So it's one of those cases I think that demonstrates kind of what people are now doing with their trucks that they probably weren't doing. And part of that I think has to come with the fact that these trucks have been having basically payload/towing wars, right? So as over the years the payload and the towing has increased, then of course the manufacturers of campers and of fifth wheels and of even trailers, right, are now increasing the weight, and then if you push it beyond its limit, this is what I think you can end up with. So there's certainly a lesson to be learned here, and I feel bad for everybody in this case. But But to have that happen, you're not going to drive that away.
Well, but it looks like nobody was hurt.
Yeah, that's main.
And
he does have some electric bikes that I think that he can take and
take home
and get out of there. Well, there you have it, guys. I hope that this is something that doesn't happen to you, and certainly we're not going to overload our trucks to that extent. Even though I got to tell you, it'd be a fun video, Andre. You've been in a series of videos that's coming up right here on TFL Truck, what we're calling Let's Find Out.
Yeah.
Maybe,
you want to do this?
Maybe that might be an interesting, let's find out.
So Ram, if you want to loan us a truck, no, I'm just kidding.
No. But we could do a series of tests where we actually do get sliding campers and see how they affect performance. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, a large one, especially
yeah. So let us know if that's something you want to see in the comments below. As always, this is Roman
and Andre
saying Happy New Year and see you guys next time. Ciao.